Okay, so Christoph has the drone up in the air, and there's something really weird next to our boats in the water. There's like this dark blob, but it's not on the charts.
Wow, yeah, it looks like a big diving hole. That's crazy.
I know, but it's not on the charts.
No.
And Steph and Christoph have sonar.
Yeah, the depth sounder didn't show it either when we did the circles before anchoring. That is bizarre.
It's changing shape. Oh my god, what is this? We are deep within the mountains of British Columbia, floating in the path of a long since retreated glacier.
Oh, it's so much fun.
To sail your own dinghy in front of a waterfall.
Wow, no, it's an epic landscape, yeah.
It was a 2-day journey to get here, traveling through alpine valleys, now flooded with salt water and improbably connected to the sea. I just can't stop pointing the camera at everything. But at the same time, I need to stop and really just soak it in too, because this place has a really special feeling about it. It is just so massive on a scale that humans, like it just feels on such a different scale than us. Now we're here, at the end of Princess Louisa Inlet, surrounded by waterfalls and cliffs and bright green rainforest.
There's just something really impressive about being in a valley and having such steep sides to it. And you look up to the soaring cliffs and you're right there amidst clouds and peaks and waterfalls. Like all of that must come from great elevation, and there's just a bit of a surreal feeling when you're actually floating in your boat in what seems alpine lake.
We have a few days here before we have to journey back out into more open waters. The journey ahead will be as difficult, as beautiful, and as uncertain as the journey here. We will have to find another anchorage in bottomless water and navigate weather patterns in a place where forecasts don't reach. But that's still a few days away. Right now, we're tied to a dock, surrounded by mountains, and we have a very steep hike in front of us.
Yeah, right.
The hike to the site of the old trapper's cabin is a tradition amongst visitors to Princess Louisa Inlet. The trail winds up nearly vertically. The park warden makes it very clear that the trail is unmaintained. It exists simply because people still clamber along it and have done for a long time. Aladino,
Yeah.
preliminary thoughts on this trail?
So steep.
Oh.
No, it's super cool. And I actually like the fact that it's not maintained. So you also have to like walk over trees that fell over. It makes it feel even a bit more wild. But it still is pretty pleasant and nice enough to walk on. Like I don't want to be Indiana Jones with a machete clearing my own path. But it does give it a nice element.
Yeah, agreed. You don't want to be Indiana Jones? It's the first time I've heard that.
I am not smart. I don't want to be Indiana Jones.
If you want, Steph and I can roll a huge rock down the mountain to really get you in the mood.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the park ranger would love that.
Oh yeah. I know very little about who the trapper was. Perhaps there was more than one trapper over the years, and the cabin was a refuge for all who worked the trap line. I don't think the cabin is still standing, but we will soon see for ourselves. We paused several times along the trail. It's not an easy hike. Over 100 years ago, back when the cabin was still standing, Cappy Blanchette wrote about the hike as she explored it with her 5 children. She wrote that the road slanted at an incline, and every muscle screamed with the punishment before we got there. We had to stop to get our breath every 100 feet or so. At the cabin, we dropped exhausted, then drank and bathed our faces in the ice-cold stream. After navigating along the base of a looming granite face, we clambered over a fallen tree and found what remains of the trapper's cabin.
It's really small.
Ah, that's it.
I wonder what it would have been like to live here, by oneself, in a tiny one-room cabin next to a waterfall, so far up an unforgiving slope, relying on your traps for food, rewarded every day with clean fresh air and views over a world that must seem all your own. On the mountain, above the timberline, there lies an old man with the look of death in his eyes. In his one-room cabin, beside a rocking chair, lies a handmade fiddle he made with love and care. His hands are weak and trembling, his bow is worn and frayed. He thinks of lonesome ballads, he's not strong enough to play. The old man is now in heaven, but his fiddle stayed behind to play a strange and lonesome melody. Hear it crying through the pines. In his one-room cabin, beside a rocking chair, lies a handmade fiddle he made with love and care. Out here, everything that isn't right in front of you stops seeming real. Here, there are only the concerns of life in the moment, perhaps life just a few days in the future. On our last morning in Princess Louisa Inlet, clouds moved in. I am floating in the dinghy, off to the left of the waterfall. I can see a small creek tumbling out of the trees. I hadn't noticed it before. Perhaps this is the creek where Cappy Blanchette did laundry 100 years ago, along with her 5 children. Although creeks come and go with the winter, as raging rivers and new landslides change the course of the gentle summer streams. Like Cappy, I feel the curve of time here. I feel my present and my future stretch in front of me. This coastline will surely be a part of me forever, and I'm grateful for that. We have to go very soon. I'm going to row back to the dock. One last look at the mountains. Describe your time spent here in Princess Louisa Inlet.
Very special times. It's been awesome 3 days. I really enjoyed it, and I think we did the most of it. We packed it full of adventures, from relaxation to a wonderful hike, good company, good food.
Princess Louisa is locked at the entrance with a sailor's riddle of sorts. The Malibu Rapids swirl dangerously as the tide rips through them. You have to time it just right for slack water so that we can pass through with quiet currents and no danger. With good timing, we made it through the rapids. Although, of course, at slack water, they're not really rapids at all. As soon as we were through and in the wider stretches of Joel Inlet, we lifted the sails. Woohoo!
A warm, hearty curry. Keep the sailor going happily.
It was an absolutely exhilarating day of sailing, although we weren't making a huge amount of progress tacking upwind. And as the day moved towards evening, the familiar feeling of nerves crept up slowly. We would need to find somewhere to anchor for the night, but Joel Inlet is notorious for its poor choice of anchorages. The water here drops off immediately to huge depths, with no room for an anchor to grab. The few coves that do have a ledge, somewhat shallow enough for an anchor, pose other challenges. The ledges are usually very narrow, meaning that you can't put out much scope before you end up grounded. On the way here, we anchored in McMurray Bay, but conditions and timing meant that we wouldn't get that far today. We decided to try at Point Patrick. Happily, anchoring here was actually a lot easier than in McMurray. There seemed to be a lot more room, and we felt relatively secure for the night.
So we were beautifully tacking with the idea of making it to McMurray, but just around the corner here, we were met with boisterous conditions, or we weren't actually, but Steph and Christoph, they made it around the corner before us, and then they VHF'd and they said, no, it's not looking fun. And we're in no rush, so we just came here. There's no reason rushing things when the conditions are not favorable. So tomorrow, though, we might get an early start, because in the morning the winds are favorable before the day warms up, and it starts just piping and funneling in the valley. But for now, we'll just enjoy some quiet time at anchor and have an early night, probably.
Compared to most other anchorages, this was still quite a challenging one, and we were anchored in probably deeper water than we would have chosen on our own, but we were safe. Safe, alone, surrounded by nature, and then suddenly surrounded by something unexpected. Okay, so Christoph has the drone up in the air, and there's something really weird next to our boats in the water. There's like this dark blob, but it's not on the charts.
Wow, yeah, it looks like a big diving hole. That's crazy.
I know, but it's not on the charts.
No.
And Steph and Christoph have sonar.
Yeah, the depth sounder didn't show it either when we did the circles before anchoring. That is bizarre.
It's changing shape.
Oh,
Oh my god, what is this?
it's a bait ball.
You mean it's fish?
Yeah, it's one huge cluster of fish.
Oh, is it gonna surround the boat?
Maybe. Whoa, look how many.
Oh my god. From
And
the
they
drone
keep
perspective,
moving.
it looked like something really scary, to be honest.
That's crazy.
Whoa. I have personally never seen anything like this. This is we think it's a herring ball. Is that what it is?
A bait ball.
A bait ball. You can see them every now and then just jumping out of the water. This is insane.
Yeah, you can see the dark perimeter.
The next day, we had another early start. We didn't film much on the journey. Mostly we just motored. I think we all felt a little melancholy in a way. Melancholy, but also happy, grateful. A feeling that I often get at the end of such an epic adventure. It was all ending now, soon to become just a memory. We left Louisa Inlet behind reluctantly, lingering on the water, refusing to enter Pender Harbor until the sun forced us to. Wow, Dini, this looks so great.
Little leftover snack.
Thank you.
Oh, sunsets are so nice here in Malaspina Strait.
Nice to be back, in a way, to the land of grocery stores and electricity and convenience. But it's also very strange. It feels like we must become slightly different people again. People who fit into society, who collect water from a tap instead of a stream, who buy fish from a grocery store instead of hoping for one on the end of a line. People who aren't concerned if their house will float away from an uncertain anchorage in the dead of night. So many versions of ourselves, brought out in different landscapes and circumstances. How lucky we are, really, to get to know them all. A huge thank you for being here with us on this adventure. I think the journey up to Princess Louisa that I've portrayed in our last 2 episodes, this one and the one before, might be one of my favorite journeys that I've had the pleasure of getting to film and share with you guys. So I'm really, really grateful that we had the opportunity to go on this trip and to film it all. A really big thank you to our new friends for a lifetime, Steph and Christoph on board SV Yare. It was an absolute pleasure to spend the past few weeks sailing with them. I think this is the last leg of our journey together. From here, they will be returning to their jobs, and Aladino and I will be sailing for not too much longer before we return to our winter refit, where we really debrief, okay, what happened with the boat this summer, what worked, what didn't work, and make a plan for the winter refit to continue. And then come spring, for all these adventures to pick up once again. Thank you for being here. Extra big thanks to our patrons for making this all possible. Really big thanks to the folks whose names are now appearing on screen for always going above and beyond to make sure that Magic Carpet keeps being produced. We post real-time updates to Patreon every single week. So if you're curious about what's happening with the refit and the sailing and all of that, just lives in general, in real time, we would really, really love to see you on Patreon. It's what keeps this all going, and it is what keeps the channel sponsor-free, so we don't have to read ads to you, and I feel very, very grateful that we can say we're audience-funded. Very, very grateful. Thank you. All right, so next week, a bit of change of pace again as we return to, well, still more beautiful, beautiful cruising on the BC coast, but I think it's hard to beat Princess Louisa Inlet, that's for sure. Pretty special place. But my parents are going to come up and visit. We've got lots of good things coming up next Friday. As always, we'll see you then. Bye.